Okay, at this time, we'd like to welcome everyone to the Henry County Zoning Board meeting of Thursday, July 14th, 2016. We have a couple of housekeeping items we'd like to go over this evening. This meeting is being televised live on Charter Channel 180 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99, and will rebroadcast every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. and Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. and is available by video on demand on the county website. Okay, now would be a great time to turn off those cell phones and laptops or anything else that's going to do any kind of beeping or ringing. If you wish to speak, you'll need to fill out a public hearing speaker card. And also, when you come up to the podium, please make sure you announce your name and address for the audience and for the record. We will allot 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case, and then we also allot 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case. For example, if 10 people wish to speak, they all share that 10-minute slot. That's not per person. And please address the board when you come, not the audience. If you turn your back to us, we are going to assume that you are finished addressing the board, and we're going to ask you to be seated. At this time, we'll have the invocation and pledge by Mr. Bailey.
Please stand. Our Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day and this time of meeting. We ask your wisdom and guidance on these matters we discussed today. We ask this all in your holy name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. This meeting is now called to order. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? We have a motion by Mr. Babb to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay. At this time, do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 12th and May 19th, 2016 minutes? Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair. One quick note on the May 19th minutes. There was one addition, and that was to add DeLanda Nelson's name to those who were present. So the minutes will need to, the motion will need to reflect the needed correction.
Okay, yeah, so under discussion, I was going to discuss that. So
Okay.
do you want to, do we need a motion to amend that first after the original motion?
It's been stated now, so you can go ahead and motion as stated. So as stated with the needed correction, you can go ahead and motion.
Okay. So the motion as stated.
Yes, the needed,
Okay.
with the needed correction.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the minutes as stated with the corrections.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to amend the minutes for May 19th as stated.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicating by raising your hand. Okay, motion carried. All right, thank you. Are there any staff comments at this point?
Yes, Madam Chair, there are a few comments. The first, case number CU-16-04, Ming Trust, Jeff Grant as agent for property on Springdale Road, was advertised for this meeting, July 14th, 2016, but it was withdrawn at the request of the applicant. And regarding case number RZ-16-04, Ola Ventures LLC, a correction needs to be stated for the record that the address there was a typo with the address in the advertisement. The correct address is 1024 Highway 138. No, I'm sorry, North Ola Road. Forgive me. The incorrect address was 1024 Highway 138, but the correct address is North Ola Road.
For some reason, the audio is not doing very well, and so it's hard for us to understand what you're saying, if that makes sense. Was there anything else?
Yes, and one other item. We have a new planning and zoning specialist, and I'd like to welcome Ms. Julie Yoder to my left to the planning and zoning department. And if you all would just join me in saying welcome to Julie.
Welcome.
Welcome, Julie.
Okay, we're now going to move on to the agenda items. Before we do that, I wanted to let the board members know that if it's in your district, I will call on you first to see if you have any questions for staff or the applicant. And then anyone else that has questions can follow that. So we'll just go with that courtesy, if that's okay with the board to do that, and continue that practice if that's all right. Okay, so we're going to call the first case.
Case number CU-16-05-S. Cobblestock Partners LP of Dallas, Texas requests a conditional use for property located at 5365 North Henry Boulevard in land lot 59 of the 12th District. The property consists of 2.65 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a church in the C2 General Commercial Zoning District. It is located within the city limits of Stockbridge and will be presented by Mr. Edward Morrow.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The request before you this evening is for a conditional use brought by the Cobblestock Partners. They'd like to place a religious facility within their existing multi-tenant strip shopping center. It's located at 5365 North Henry Boulevard. You can see here on the map might not be the most descriptive, but it's in the vicinity of the Quick Trip on North Henry Boulevard. This particular shopping center used to be home to an Ace Hardware that actually has a conditional use at this very same shopping center. So Cobblestock would like to place a religious facility there. You can see, oh, sorry.
I think we have two books up here, and we just want to make sure we're in the correct book. So it's not the book with the orange cover. It's the book with the blue cover, so make sure all the board members have the correct book. Okay, just want to make sure. I apologize, but you may continue.
Oh, absolutely. If this helps, there are a couple of photographs from the shopping center. There are two buildings situated on the site. The religious facility would actually go into the one on the bottom photo, which is situated kind of on the right-hand side of the property. The property itself is actually about 2.65 plus or minus acres. And it might be helpful to note that the Stockbridge City Council previously permitted a conditional use here for a religious facility, but it was on a temporary basis. So tonight they're seeking a permanent conditional use to maintain the All About Change Ministries at this location. And I'd also like to call your attention to the amended letter of interest. You all should have received a copy of this in your exhibit books. At this time, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, Ms. Green, do you have any questions for staff at this time? Ms. Green?
Sorry, I was looking for the amended letter.
Oh, yeah, I was too, and I apologize. That's what you were saying for the. Can you present those to Ms. Green?
Absolutely.
To look at.
Thank you.
And while she's looking at that, would you be opposed to if someone else had any questions?
No, go ahead,
Okay,
please.
anyone
Thank
else have
you.
any questions for staff?
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention staff recommends approval.
Okay. Those were not in our book, by the way, just,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
that's okay.
I do have a question. So based on the letter, it looks like they're relocating from Augusta?
That might be a question for the applicant.
Okay.
I do think they're here.
I don't think I have any other questions for staff.
All
Thank
right,
you.
if we could call the applicant to please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everybody.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
My name is Jordan Edwards, 3500 Lennox Road, Atlanta, Georgia, 30326. And I'm representing Cobblestock Partners in this case. Don't really have a whole lot to add to Mr. Morrow's report. I can just provide a little bit of information about the kind of the history of the property. It came under new ownership. Cobblestock came into ownership of the property late last year. And there are two tenants there right now, but there's still a lot of vacancies. There's a successful pawn shop and another religious organization there right now, but still a lot of vacancies. And so this the church would be leasing two of the suites, and the property owner is very excited about them as a lessee. Two things that we think support approval is that first location. Here on North Henry Boulevard, there's commercial to the left, right, and center of this shopping center. You've got the Supercenter Walmart, you've got small retail restaurants, and then to the back side, to the south, you've got residential uses that are separated by a sort of a natural buffer of undeveloped land, just a moderate distance. Not that there's going to be that much need for a buffer, and that's kind of sort of the second thing that's going to bring up is this is a pretty low intensity use. To answer Ms. Green's question, the church is not relocating. This is just a second sister congregation. It's pretty small still. I think about 25 members is what I was told. Evening meetings, weekend meetings. So during the work week, during the work day, there's not going to be much impact, especially as the shared parking situation. There's more than abundant parking for a small congregation like this. So I guess just to conclude, I think that this is a great use of a commercial 2 zone property. It is a permitted use here with the conditional use approval. Planning and zoning staff recommend approval, and so we also ask that you do the same. So with that, I can answer any questions or concerns by anyone.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Green, do you have anything for the applicant?
No, he answered my
Oh,
question.
okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for the applicant at this time?
I just have one question. In terms of rental, the future, do the church have any future plans for rental in terms of who would actually be, they would be renting out to, or what's the plans for that?
The church would actually be a lessee here. They would be leasing it from the property owner. And so it's just 2 suites. It's about 2,500 square feet. So I don't think they have any plans to then sublease it to anyone else.
Okay. And you indicate that some of the property is vacant, or some of the suites are vacant. Do we have any plans for those areas?
Not to my knowledge, I'm afraid. I think the property owners are, accepting interested parties and sort of vetting them as they come. I'm not aware of any other plans though right now.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. You may be seated. At this time, we're going to call for those who want to speak in favor of the case. If you would like to speak in favor of this case, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Okay, I don't see anyone coming up. All right, so now we're going to allot 10 minutes for those who might want to speak in opposition of the case. Don't see anyone coming up. All right, if I can ask the applicant to please come back. I do have a question. I know that, and I don't know if I saw this in the report, but I know when there's religious facilities in an area, especially if it's going to be in a situation like this, sometimes there are other like restaurants that might serve alcohol that might be in the area. So would there still be a restriction, and maybe this is for staff, on that if there's nothing exists now, they have to be so many feet away from a religious facility? Would that still apply in this situation?
Business license department, and make sure they have to submit the rendering showing the actual measurement
Okay.
and the
all right.
distancing.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So that would prevent you renting. I just want to make sure you guys were aware from, a restaurant that served alcohol or something like that. So just for everybody's purposes, just to know that. So I don't have anything else. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns?
I just have one question. I guess this would be for staff as well. In terms of future growth for the church itself, do we have adequate parking if the church is maxed out to its capacity?
At this point, it would appear that there is available parking for future tenants at this shopping center.
Now, do you have any idea what's the actual maximum capacity of the church or of that area?
Of the church itself, I'm not sure, but of the parking lot, I believe there are somewhere in the range of 130 parking spaces.
How many spaces?
130, at least 130.
130?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Dante, do we know the actual size of the capacity of the church?
The capacity of the church will probably be a better question for the applicant to kind
Okay.
of give you a better idea.
The space that's set to be leased is 2,500 square feet. So then if you within, not all of that space would be for the main assembly area.
Okay.
And it's the ratio of parking for church uses is how many seats are in the main assembly area. And it's, I think,
one
one
parking
space per three.
For three.
One parking space per 3 seats. So I haven't seen I don't think they have internal plans yet, but they're not going to be able to fill up all the parking that's there
Okay.
physically.
We found it in our book. Sometimes we overpass these things and we ask the question, and then we look down and there it is. That's okay. Anyone else have any questions or concerns? Or was that Mr. Nelson? You okay?
I'm
Okay.
fine, yeah.
All right, you may be seated. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
And if we could call the case?
Case number CU-16-05-S. Cobblestock Partners LP of Dallas, Texas requests a conditional use for a property located at 5365 North Henry Boulevard in land lot 59 of the 12th District. The property consists of 2.65 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a church in the C2 General Commercial Zoning District. The property is located in the city of Stockbridge and was presented by Mr. Edward Morrow.
Do I have a motion for this case?
Yes, I make a motion to approve case CU 1605S.
I have a motion by Ms. Green. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Head. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating, raise your hand. All those in favor on the motion. All right, motion carried. Okay, we'll call the next case.
Case number VR-16-06, Leslie Germano of McDonough, Georgia, requests a variance from development standards for the property located at 3198 Jonesboro Road in land lot 79 of the 6th District. The property consists of 0.873 plus or minus acres, and the request is to allow the use of a daycare facility and is located in District 3. And I believe that is Jodico Road, not Jonesboro.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Board members. The case before you tonight is for a piece of property that's located on Jodico Road at the intersection with Meadowbrook Drive. And if you can notice the property that's in the green hatched mark here. So this is I-75, this is Jodico Road, and this is our subject property here. So the variance request before you is for very specific things, and this is on the first page of your staff report. Under request, it says variance from development regulations. Basically, the area that's before you tonight is the area that's zoned commercial. Now, the applicant also owns additional acreage to the south once you get back into the Meadowbrook subdivision, but this property is zoned R3, and that property cannot be used for the daycare center, so that is not part of our subject property. It's just this property here that we're talking about tonight. This property by itself is 0.8 acres, and according to the Unified Land Development Code, it needs to be at least 1 acre. So the applicant needs a variance from that requirement from 1 acre to 0.873 acres. On the first page of your staff report, the second request, staff has determined that that variance request is not needed. So that's not something that the applicant is going to be required to have, and you would not need to act on that tonight. The last request that's listed is to reduce the corner side yard setback from 30 feet to approximately 20 feet, and the applicant would need that variance from you tonight in order to reopen this location as a daycare center. So the staff has evaluated the applicant's request, and we do recommend approval of the applicant's request.
Okay, so Mr. Risher, you have any questions for staff?
Yes, I believe that the staff made reference to the overhang or canopy that's at the front of this. Is this I think it's for a variance from the front yard setback from 50 feet to 20 feet. Was this property adversely affected when the Jodico Road improvement was done?
And Mr. Risher, the overhang that you're referring to is in this picture that's exhibited.
Yeah, I
This
see
is
it.
the overhang. It's a drive-through, pickup, drop-off area. I can tell you that this property was not adversely affected to the extent that any acreage was acquired by the state in the front. So the short answer is no. But what we have found is that a canopy used for automobile access is allowed to be within 15 feet of the public right-of-way line, and this canopy is located 20 feet, so therefore no variance is required.
Okay.
So now I'm confused because there's 3 requests and you're saying which one is not required? Is it number 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we can scratch off the number 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the overhang, so that, whatever the drive-through, it's okay?
It's okay.
Okay. That meets code, okay. So I crossed out the wrong thing. All righty. Anyone else have any questions for staff?
There's two buildings on this property, right?
Yes, sir.
So both buildings will go with the same setback.
Yes, sir, and the second building does meet the setback.
Okay, anyone else have any questions for staff? Alrighty, if we could ask the applicant to please come forward and state your name and address for the record. The applicant, if you're the applicant, yes, I'm asking you to come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Leslie Germano, Germano. I live at 568 North Ola Road in the unincorporated area of Ola, just east of McDonough. If I would be permitted, I ran off a couple of copies of some of these little notes I thought you might be interested in. May I distribute them?
Yes.
Thank you.
To save on time, I'll just pass them on down if that's okay. All righty. Okay, do you have anything you'd like to add to staff's report?
Yes, actually, when Jodico Road was widened and the improvements there were made, did not own the property at the time, but there was substantial land taken away, which included one 1,500-gallon septic tank. Even though the contract called for things to be put back as they were, it was not possible to do it. The soil doesn't meet the percolation standards or some sort of a standard that the engineers know about. And therefore, instead of allowing 139 enrollees there, plus the staff, we had to cut back to a maximum of 75 children because we only have limited sewage there. The third of the lot that faces on Highland has no use of any kind. Nothing can be built there. It's too small for building, wouldn't meet any setbacks to build anything. There's no sewage on the property, cannot have any sewage on the property. Now, if this is granted, it's going to provide daycare for about 75 children in this county, so they don't need to go to Fayette County or Fulton County or Cobb County. That is about, I put here 35, I meant to say 35 to 40 families will benefit from that. It's my understanding that for the last 2 years, every single daycare in Henry County and even over into Clayton County down to Morrow is absolutely full to capacity and has a waiting list. The tenant who wants to open a daycare in this property already has a waiting list waiting for your approval. This served as a daycare for, I don't know, 30, 40 years at least, with no problems. Then it fell on hard times. It got vandalized. It got sold at a distress sale on the courthouse steps because the IRS didn't get their payroll money, and I acquired it. I spent around $100,000 to get all the violation tags off it and to improve the property and make it a viable daycare facility. However, as soon as it was ready to go, it got vandalized. And it took about 6 months to correct all of that vandalism. If you, lady and gentlemen, would happen to have it before you, the police department were regular out there to that vacant property. Everything under the sun was going on at that vacant building. Now I have it all ready. It's ready for inspection. It's ready for use. The only problem we have is this little 1/10 of an acre. The facility would also provide 10 or 12 steady jobs for the people of our community. And of course, to have a going business on this big piece of land would contribute substantially to the tax revenue. And the likely results of denying it is that these daycare services will not be available, and the property would be rendered worthless. I have pointed out here, I talked to the county due diligence conference about the various possible uses, and it seems that a grandfathered daycare, a grandfathered building for a daycare is about the only thing that can be used for. Obviously, if the property is rendered worthless, I'm not going to be paying in excess of $10,000 a year of taxes, which I have been doing for 3 years now, without any benefit at all from it. Well, of course, I had my city benefits, but I had no income from it. But that would cut the taxes down to a very nominal amount. And I have asked the tax assessor, filed an appeal of the tax assessment on the property in the event that I do not get this. I see no reason at all that this would not be granted. It was advertised for sale at the distress sale as a C2 property. When we realized that it was 2 parcels of property, the people at the planning and zoning area told us, oh, one of those is that neither of those lots is big enough. You have to join them together. So I spent a few $1,000s to get all that done. And then when I talked to the person who said that, she told me, you know, I thought at that time that it was all C2 also. But the fact is, I'm caught here with every penny of my life savings. At 86 years old, I have every penny of my life savings tied up in that. The community needs this daycare. The community needs these jobs. And I would request, I am a resident of Henry County and a taxpayer at Henry County, and I would request that you grant this. I don't see that the neighborhood would be anything but benefited. Thank you.
Okay, if you'll just stay there, I'm going to ask if any of the board members have any questions for you, and I'm going to start with Mr. Risher since this is in his district. Mr. Risher, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, I have none at this time. I think I understand the request.
Okay, any other board members have any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, we're going to ask you to be seated, and we're going to hear some public comment if that after you be, okay? So at this time, we're going to ask those who want to speak in favor of this case to please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Okay, I don't see anyone coming up. I just want to make sure. All right. I'll give everybody a chance. And any of those that want to speak in opposition of this case, please come forward. Don't see anyone coming up. I need to ask you to come back up, Miss, and I'm going to mispronounce your name. Germano, sorry, yes. Germano, yeah. Well, I was going to say that, and I thought, she didn't really say that. We're going to ask the board if anyone has any questions for you. I have a question. How soon would this be planned to be opened if this variance is approved?
As soon as this variance is approved, we will immediately apply to the state. The tenant has started her build-out, just not really a big deal, just a few moving this and that around in there. She also has put in a large, expensive supply of brand-new daycare equipment. So just as soon as you get this approved, we will hit the state for a daycare license, open it right away. She had hoped to open July 1st, but this didn't happen. Would it be August 1st? If we can. If not, as soon as we could get the license. Okay. I see no reason we should not get the state license.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
And if we can call the case, please.
VR-16-06, Leslie Germano of McDonough, Georgia, requests a variance from development standards for the property located at 3198 Jodico Road in Land Lot 79 of the 6th District. The property consists of 0.873 plus or minus acres, and the request is to allow the use of a daycare facility. It is located in Commission District 3 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rootstill.
Okay, do I have a motion for this case?
I make a motion to approve the following request: to reduce the minimum lot area from 1 acre to 0.873 acres, and to reduce the corner side yard setback from 30 feet to 20 feet to accommodate the addition which was permitted in 1985. I also find that the setback for the canopy, that variance request is not needed.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Risher. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Babb. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by raising your hand. Motion carried. All righty, let's go to the next case. Thank you.
Case number RZ-16-12, Arcorn Properties Incorporated of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA, Residential Agricultural, to C3, Highway Commercial, for property located at 1840 Highway 81 East in Land Lot 171 of the 7th District. The property consists of 1.882 plus or minus acres, and the request is for future commercial development. The property is located in Commission District 1 and will be presented by Ms. Josephine Medina.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board.
Good evening.
The property that, the property that's being requested rezoning is located at Highway 181 East, and the property is requested to be rezoned to Highway Commercial C3. The applicant has stated in their letter of intent that they intend that this request is for the sole purposes of resale, and they have no intention of developing the property themselves. So they are interested in getting something that's more general commercial. As you can see, the future land use map designation is of low-density residential, so it is not consistent with what is being requested as C3. That being said, the property is also located within the Georgia 81 at Old Jackson Road Crossroads Activity Center. The size of the property wouldn't require a master plan because it doesn't meet the threshold. However, the typology of Crossroads activity centers allows for an increase in acreage for non-residential uses, meeting the intent of the Crossroads Activity Center designation. The target percentage of non-residential land mix is 30%. Currently, the typology is 15, for non-residential land uses is of 15.3%. If this request would be approved, it would rise to 15.9%. The property is located within the Tusaha Watershed Protected District, so it would have to adhere to section 3.04.00 of the Watershed Protection District Ordinance. That being said, the staff recommends denial of the C3 request, but does feel that it would be more appropriate for the Crossroads Activity Center to recommend approval for C2 with the following conditions.
Okay,
You can now answer any questions you guys may have.
okay.
Sorry.
I just wanted to make sure you were finished before
Yeah.
I interrupted. Okay, Mr. Head, since this is in your district, I'm going to call upon you to ask, to see if you have any questions for staff at this time.
The property that's adjacent to it, the strip mall, what is the zoning on that?
So actually, the property is surrounded by residential uses. And then if you look to the east, the little L shape, that is what is CVS. To the bottom, it was a property that was recently rezoned. It was rezoned C2 for offices for a landscaping or lawn and garden location.
But that's a strip mall.
Strip mall, so there is more to the west. I think the first C3 use, that's C3, and then the rest would be C2. The C3 was limited to only heavy auto repair, and that's it for C3, and then everything else that would fall C2 or C. As far as the strip mall, though, they're a mixture of C2 and C1s. Did I answer your question? I'm sorry.
Do you have any other questions?
Not really.
You sure? But how about this? I'm going to ask a question, and if you can think of something. Okay. So it's in an activity center, and there has to be a percentage of commercial, and there has to be a percentage of residential. Is that a correct statement?
Correct.
Okay, so right now, and so in an activity center, it's 30% commercial,
Right, the target is 30%
and
non-residential.
right now it's 15.
Right now it's 15.
So you showed the future land use map, and when you showed that, if you'll put that back up, it shows this property, it shows all of it being residential, which
Right.
it confused me.
Got you.
Because, you know, we probably need to have respect for the future land use map, and we're told to have respect for the land use map, but when it shows it's all residential, but then when all actuality is an activity center and it's surrounded by commercial, it kind of puts us in a quandary of like, what to do. For me, it does. Now,
Gotcha.
maybe the other board members don't have a problem with that, but I'm kind of trying to, in my brain, thinking, why is it saying that that the future land use is residential when it clearly is commercial right there?
So for the intent was for activity centers to be master planned, but they had to meet a certain threshold. So that was the intent when activity centers were created in the future land use plan, that somebody would come, have more than 5 acres or more than, I think, 30,000 square feet of retail, and they would master plan the whole activity center. That hasn't happened yet, so there is a section that speaks to that. Sorry. And it's, so it states that For activity centers whose proposed developments have yet to meet the threshold to require master planning of the said activity center, rezoning requests will be evaluated per section 9.01.03 C. And in the past, approvals of rezoning requests whose future land use designations were inconsistent with the proposed non-residential land use have been evaluated based on the surrounding land use and meeting the purpose of a crossroads activity center and how it's defined. For example, let me just switch maps.
So like if this was over 5 acres, wouldn't they have to come up with a plan? And because it's less than 5
Right.
acres, they wouldn't have to have a plan, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right, so that's what happened with the CVS, and so pretty much everything that's adjacent to that property, that's commercial, that's what happened, because it also was designated low-density residential, but it's just a matter of, is it meeting what the Crossroads Activity Center intended?
So I'm looking at in between all of that, commercial, there's still some RA there.
That's correct.
And that's considered residential. So that might be like apartments or something? Is that what we're saying, or?
No,
I mean, I don't
right now
know.
those are homes.
Oh, there's homes that actually are there?
Yes, so right now, everything
Okay.
that's
I'm sorry, I
along
didn't-
81, except
Yeah.
what's commercial, are single-family homes, even the property that's being asked to be rezoned.
That's a single-family home that's
Right,
there?
and that
Okay,
next to it,
okay.
mhm.
And right beside it, that little square before you get to, I guess I'm assuming that's the CVS, is there a home there also?
Yes, so the next case, that's another request. They are also requesting to be rezoned.
That property to be rezoned also? Okay. All right, so you're saying that if this were approved, then that would meet the 15, you said it would increase the activity center by it's 15% now, so it'd be 15 point what?
Right,
5%?
so right now it's 15.3, and it would rise to about 15.9%.
Okay. And you're supposed to have 30? Supposed to?
That's the target,
Right.
yes.
For next, but that's, and I guess I'm confused, and maybe Dante can answer this. So do you just keep increasing the commercial until that's reached? I mean, that's not a have to. Is that a correct statement, or is that?
No, we look at each case objectively, and what we look at is the character of the area. So if you're specific to Highway 81 and Old Jackson, and I think that's South Bethany Road, if the character of the area as we look at it currently is showing a development trend of commercial, and the parcel that they are actually considering or asking to rezone is abutting or within proximity to those parcels, then that's, based on our current zoning map, is supportive of what they're asking. And in some cases, we do find that the future land use map, when it was adopted, the projections may not have seen this area developing commercial as it has. So you may get that from time to time.
So what was the criteria that it became an activity center? Was it before the future land use map, or was like after?
No, the activity center is part of the future land use map. That criteria is part of our comprehensive land use plan, our joint
So that
cities.
is part of the future?
It's
okay.
part of it.
Okay. So, and they meet all the criteria for this to be the C?
What they are requesting actually is supportive of the thresholds that need to be met per the standards of the activity center.
Okay, all right. I'm just want to make sure that I understand. Okay. So, Mr. Head, are you okay? Any other questions for staff?
Yes, I have
Okay,
a question.
Mr. Nelson.
Josephine, I do have a question in reference to that area. Did you say there is homes on that property as of now?
Yes.
Okay, and adjacent to it, the RA property, there is homes there as well?
Right, and so if you, to the east, the next case is also requesting C3, and they are the same property owners.
Okay.
One is an LLC and one is the actual property owner. And they said that they wanted to sell it combined. So just to give you an idea.
And adjacent to that, to the east,
There
is
are.
the C2,
Right. Yes.
existing C2 as of now?
Yes, that's the CVS right after that, yeah.
Okay.
And then you said there's an auto parts to the west. That's a C3.
Right, right. Once
But
you
that's-
pass the 3 parcels.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And that's the only thing that can go there is the auto parts store, correct?
Right, that's what they
Okay.
limited to.
Okay. And I see some other C3s, like on down to the west of that. I'm not really familiar with what all is in that area. So do those actually have conditions like this auto parts, or is it wide open for any C3 to go in there? Do you know?
I didn't go through those.
It's
zoning
across from
files.
Old Jackson. Okay, that's fine. I just noticed the color difference there, so I don't know if they could see that in the audience, but, okay. All right, that's all I have. Anyone else have anything? Okay, we'll ask the applicant to please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Ranjit Puri, and we own that property, 1840.
It's 1840 Highway 81 East, McDonough, Georgia, 30252. That's the Archon properties that we're requesting. And then we're also own the one at 1850 Highway 81 East, right next door to it, the smaller lot.
Yeah, I'm just asking for your address as in where you live, so
We
that.
live at 1850 Highway 81 East, McDonough.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. Is that correct, Dante? That's their residence, is that we're asking?
Yes.
Right, okay. There's anything you would like to add to the staff's comments?
Actually, I think Josephine doesn't know that, but the property at 1800, which connects with the Castrol Oil, it's currently for sale, and they have it on the market for potential commercial also. It just went on the market 2 weeks ago.
Can you point to that
Yes.
on the screen?
It's going to be this one.
Okay.
So only in between us, and it would only be this one, this small lot here, and then this one also.
Okay. Was there anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, there's a restaurant next to Castro.
Yeah, there's in the same building as the car changing, there's a restaurant there. Then next to it, there's a strip mall, there's Ace there. There's a Berry Mangoes restaurant, and next to it is a medical facility.
All right. Was there anything else?
No.
Okay. Do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant?
I have one question.
Okay, Mr. Nelson?
As of right now, as you plan to sell the property, do you have any potential buyers? And if so, do you have any idea what they plan to put on that property?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. No buyers yet.
Okay. I don't see any other okay, Mr. Head?
If this is approved, are you satisfied with the C2?
What's the difference between C2 and C3?
One is, you can explain it to us.
So one would permit heavier uses, such as, let's say, like auto repair, let's see, HVAC, things that have more outdoor storage. So just be, what else? Sorry, I'm trying to think of other things. So just heavier commercial uses would be allowed. I would say a hotel, but no, that wouldn't fit there. So just heavier commercial uses like that might require more outdoor storage type uses.
Okay, I got you. But it could be, if we sell it, it could be rezoned again if somebody
Well, tell her
needed.
what a C2, what can go in a C2.
C2, let me think, I guess furniture,
Like a restaurant?
restaurants.
Restaurant can go in there.
Restaurants.
Gasoline station,
That's fine.
I mean, that's.
C2 is good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Dante?
To clarify her question, the applicant's question about rezoning again, in the event that it's zone C2 and that another applicant wants to rezone it, they would have to wait 18 months before they are eligible to rezone again.
How much time? 18 months? Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Would that be and when we receive the approval, would that be in the paperwork that we would have to let a potential buyer know?
That would be a question for staff.
Once, the decision made tonight is a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, and after tonight's decision, we'll schedule you and contact you, let you know which agenda or which meeting you will be on for the Board of Commissioners. They'll render the final decision, and once they make their final decision, we'll write a letter to you. Staff will issue a letter to you confirming what the Board of Commissioners' decision is.
Okay.
On board.
Okay, any
yeah,
board
one more
members have any
question.
questions for the applicant?
Yeah. We'd like to know about taxes. Would it affect
Okay,
our?
so right now, this is what we're doing. The board is asking you questions. So if any of those questions about taxes or, do you have to disclose this and that sort of thing, that would be for after this meeting
Okay.
that you would have to ask the staff because we don't know those technical.
I got you.
I'm sorry.
No
We're
problem.
here to ask you questions actually because we're trying to decide if it needs to be rezoned.
Oh.
That's okay. But those are legit. You didn't realize it.
Yeah.
So any other questions for the applicant? Okay, from the board. Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to have 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of this case. Alrighty, I don't see anyone coming up speaking in favor. Okay, I will allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of this case. Alrighty. All right, we're going to ask the applicant to please come back to the podium. So I just have one question, and then if any of the other board members have anything. So you understand that the difference between the C2 and the C3 and the recommendation of staff, and then with the different conditions they have put on it if it was approved. Okay. So with that, you may be seated if the other board members don't have any questions. All right, you may be seated. And if we can please call the case.
Case number RZ-16-12. Alcorn Properties Incorporated of McDonough, Georgia requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C3 Highway Commercial for the property located at 1840 Highway 81 East in Land Lot 171 of the 7th District. The property consists of 1.882 plus or minus acres, and the request is for future commercial development. This property is located in Commission District 1 and was presented by Ms. Josephine Medina.
Okay, do you have a motion for this case?
I make a motion to approve the C2 general commercial, and with staff recommendation of 9 recommendations staff has recommended.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Head for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. All righty. Next case, please.
Case number RZ-16-13, Ranjit and Sandra Puri of McDonough, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C3 Highway Commercial for property located at 1850 Highway 81 East and Land Lot 171 of the 7th District. The property consists of 1.239 plus or minus acres, and the request is for future commercial development, and this property is located in Commission District 1 and will be presented by Ms. Josephine Medina.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board.
Good evening.
The request before you today is located at 1850 Highway 81 East. So this is east of the previous case just motioned on. And they are requesting for C3 Highway Commercial. As the applicant had stated in their letter of intent, the sole purpose of this request is for resale, and they do not have any intention of developing the property themselves. The future land use of the property is low-density residential, which is inconsistent with what is being requested as C3 by the applicant. However, the subject property is located within the Georgia 81 at Old Jackson Road Crossroads Activity Center. The size of the property does not meet the threshold required to master plan the activity center, but the typology for the Crossroads Activity Centers allows for increase in the acreage of non-residential land uses as long as it meets the intent of the Crossroads Activity Center designation. The target percentage of non-residential land mix for Crossroads Activity Centers is 30%. Currently, there's 15.3 typology of non-residential land uses. If the request is approved, it would rise to 15.7%. And I should mention, if both of these requests, the previous and this one, would be approved, it would rise to 16.03%. The subject property is located within the Tusaha Water Protection District and would need to adhere to Section 3.04.00 of the Watershed Protection District. What this means is if you look at Tract B, which is the subject property, is 1.239 acres. It would have to be at least 1.5 acres to be developed as general commercials that is being requested. So staff has added has recommended a condition where the properties either be combined or some of the portion of Track A be provided to Track B so that it would be able to meet that threshold. As far as staff recommendation, due to the surrounding zoning and being Crossroads Activity Center, staff recommends denial of C3, but recommends approval of C2 with the following conditions.
Okay.
I will now answer any questions you
Okay.
have.
Mr. Head, do you have any questions from? Okay, so I just need some clarification. So combined, and that's what you're recommending, in order for it to be developed as commercial for C2, you're asking on here that the property shall be combined to obtain the acreage for a lot size of 1.5 acres to meet all the requirements, and that would be to combine 3.10 acres or something like that. So it's still under the 5 acre threshold for a plan.
Right, it's
Okay.
it's 5 acres.
Right.
For a plan.
So on here, and shame on me for not catching this on the other one. I mean, I caught it, I had a note, but I forgot to say something. And Dante knows that I'm an advocate of landscaping and what that looks in the community as far as when you drive down 81 or any place in Henry County, because we were a rural county that's going commercial. It seems like it appears, but we want to keep that aesthetics of that look. I mean, I would hope. So I've spoken with the building department, and I know, and I tried to pull up the ULDC code today. For some reason, my computer would not. It just was a blank page. I don't know why it wouldn't come up. The landscape page, because I know that there's it's every 50 feet for trees, unless we put a condition on it.
Our ULDC landscape plan, they would have to be reviewed by our plan review department. They would have to meet the minimum landscaping requirements. So if it's listed in our ULDC as a minimum requirement, then there's no need for a condition. That's standard requirements for. So if anything stricter or any additional that's not in our ULDC regarding landscaping, the ZAB can consider that and see if the applicant would be agreeable to it.
Okay. So we can put a condition on it if it's less than. So if it's every 50 feet, if we could say it's 25 feet, right?
You can consider that.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So, Mr. Head, I might just, ask that question, just for aesthetics. Because and just kind of give a little history of that. Well, sometimes it's just not enough, and when they put up the trees, if you'll notice, a lot of times, it's just not enough coverage to make it for the residents that may be across the street or something like that, the lighting and things like that show through. So we just want to make sure there's plenty of coverage up front. And so we're going to be looking at that, but I might want to put a condition on it just to make sure that there's full coverage there on the landscape plan. Because they wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, if we approved it without that condition, they have to go by the minimum requirements in ULDC code for the building department. Okay, all right. All right then. Okay, that's all I had. Anyone else have anything? Okay, would I ask the applicant to please come forward? I have one other question before I call them up. So it actually, who would be the one, so it'd be the person that's developing it, the condition would follow the property? So it would be it wouldn't be the people who are necessarily selling it?
The condition runs with the property.
Okay.
So whomever will be submitting development plans to our building department,
Okay.
they will be responsible for meeting those conditions.
Okay, All right, I just want to make sure that was a correct statement. Okay, please state your name and address where you live, your residence, for the record.
Beauty, 1850 Highway 81 East, McDonough, Georgia.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to add to staff's comments?
We already got a bunch of trees in the front yard. Well, we got those, what you
Leland
call,
cypress.
the Leland cypress all down the front. So we got coverage as far as that's concerned.
Okay, and I'm going to answer that question. A lot of times a developer will go in and tear down every single one of those trees. So you might have trees on there, but someone who buys that might want to just mow down all those trees.
Yeah.
So this plan is to make sure they put them right back up. So that's why I was asking him. It's not something necessarily you're going to do unless you're going to develop it beforehand. So this is to protect and preserve what's there. So it can be, if you don't mind, it could be a condition of preserve those trees that exist, or make sure that the trees that are replaced are 25 feet apart, because right now the ULDC code says they're 50 feet apart.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's enough coverage. And I don't know how far apart those trees are, and I'm sure there's probably plenty of coverage now, but if they tear those trees down, there might not be in the future. So that's kind of what we're trying to protect and preserve. Does that help?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, would anybody like to come up and speak in favor of this case? All right, I don't see anyone come up, and I'm going to allow 10 minutes for those who speak in opposition of this case. Okay, we're going to ask the applicant to please come forward. So I just want to make sure for the record, so we can, that you guys know, we're going to say a detailed landscaping plan shall be submitted in accordance with ULDC code except, should we use the words except the tree buffer shall be 25 feet apart instead of the 50? How should that, I'm not trying to figure out how to word that. Or the landscape buffer,
You can simply state that the landscaping requirement shall be 25 feet, or the planting shall be 25 feet apart instead of 50.
okay.
And meet all other ULDC.
Yeah, and meet all the other ULDC. So the landscape buffer should be 25 feet.
Not
instead of-
buffer, just the distancing.
Of
The
distance,
Yeah,
for
distance
distance.
between plantings.
Between each, the plantings, instead of the 50. Yeah. And you're okay with that? Okay. Anyone else have anything you want to add? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Please call the case.
Case number RZ-16-13, Ranji and Sandra Puri of McDonough, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA Residential Agriculture to C3 Highway Commercial for property located at 1850 Highway 81 East in land lot 171 of the 7th District. The property consists of 1.239 plus or minus acres, and the request is for future commercial development, and the property is located in Commission District 1 and was presented by Ms. Josephine Medina.
Okay, do you have a motion for this case?
I make a motion that, based on staff recommendation, to deny the request of C3 from RA to C3, and to approve the recommendation of C2 general commercial with the following condition, with condition 4 being that a detailed landscape plan should be submitted. The building department shall file approve the plan to issue insured of the premises, and that shall be 25 instead of 50 feet. That every 25 feet. Okay.
All right, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, Mr. Nelson, I have a second by Mr. Nelson. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Okay, it's unanimous already. Motion carried. Next case.
Case number RZ-16-14, Ola Ventures of McDonough, Georgia requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R1 Single Family Residence for the property located located on North Ola Road and land lot 55 of the 12th District. The property consists of 14.369 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a minor subdivision development. The property is located in Commission District 3 and will be presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rootstill.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Good evening.
board members. The request before you tonight is located on North Ola Road, as indicated on the overhead. This elongated green hatched area is actually our subject property. The road in front of it is North Ola Road. Just to the north is the Farm Road. And so this is the area that we're talking about. The subject property is 14 acres out of a larger 173 acre parcel along the east side of North Ola Road. And the request is for an R1 minor subdivision consisting of 12 lots. And the future land use map calls for a rural residential development all along the east part of North Ola Road, which limits the density to 1 or less than 1 dwelling units per acre. And so the applicant's request is for 12 lots on the 14 acres for a net density of approximately 0.99 houses per acre. This complies with the future land use map policy guide, and staff recommends approval with 6 conditions. And I would like to ask you to take special consideration of condition number 6, which has been modified by staff from what was originally in your staff reports. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Okay, Mr. Risher, this is in your district, so I'm going to let you go first with your questions.
Yes, I have a few questions. The 173 acres that directly to the west of this strip of land is, if I read the staff report correctly, this was a parcel that was denied R2 zoning back in 2007. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the recommendation of the comprehensive land use plan is that I believe, for this area, particularly east of North Ola Road, is a density of no more than 1 home per acre. Is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in the staff report, I think you mentioned that the item number 6 would need to be revised, and I think that, since there is, since there is hardly any ditch there within that right of way, that I think that would be subject to the Henry County DOT addressing the location of driveways, during the plan review process. That would be, separate from, from this action tonight. I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, any other board members have a question for the staff?
Yeah, Stacy, will you go back to the original map? Okay. Now,
This is the future land use map.
okay.
There's also the zoning map, so I'd be pleased to answer any questions about either one.
Okay. Now, the area that they're asking to be rezoned, the area to the east of that, how do you access that area if this is rezoned?
So if you'll take a look at the applicant's site plan, you'll notice that each one of the lots are numbered.
Okay.
But there are 2 areas that are listed as future right-of-way on this preliminary and conceptual site plan. And they're located immediately across from Timber Ridge Drive
Okay.
and also to the south. So you'll note that they're not simply left out. They're actually labeled as future right-of-way, and that's intended to access the property to the east.
Okay. And does those areas meet all the requirements in terms of construction if that area is, if it's approved? Does it meet the requirements for construction?
As far as I'm aware, it does. The development of the minor subdivision will have to meet the county requirements, and specifically the requirements of the Henry County Department of Transportation, before it's allowed to develop. So that it's simply required, but just with a cursory review, I don't see anything that would prohibit that approval.
Okay. Now, is there a requirement that this area to the east that you have access to? And if so, what's that requirement?
Yes. The property to the east, once these lots are split out, it's not allowed for us to approve a situation where that property would be landlocked. So it will have to have frontage, and the frontage will have to be at least 60 feet. And they're showing 2 access points, and I believe, if I recall correctly, that both of them have a minimum of 60 feet of road frontage.
I believe the one that's across from Timber Ridge Drive actually is 80 feet in right-of-way.
Yes, sir, so that would comply.
Which would be, I guess, the primary, entrance for that future development if and when it occurs.
And the applicant has not indicated to staff that the property to the east will be a subdivision, but because it's listed as future right-of-way, that gives the impression, certainly.
And in the past, there was a denial of the adjacent property?
Well, in the past, in 2007, the subject property plus the balance of the entire 173-acre property, all of that came in together requesting an R2 zoning, and that was denied.
Okay. And I'm not aware of it, so what was the reasoning for denial at that point?
I don't recall at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Do any of the board members have any questions for staff? Any other questions? Mr. Risher, did you have any other?
Now, yes, just one. Has the Environmental Health Department looked at these, plats and made a determination as to the suitability of soils for septic systems?
The Environmental Health Department has taken a look at this site. We do require a form to be submitted from the Environmental Health Department before we'll receive a rezoning application. And Mr. Risher, I'll need to take a look in the file to see exactly what they said. Just because they submit the form does not mean that there are suitable soils on the site. It's very likely that additional study will have to be done, but if I recall correctly, a level 3 soil test was performed on this site.
Yes, that's a very extensive soil study and borings that has to be, made. I think that was required in recent years, to have that level of soil study.
Yes, sir.
According to criteria point 6 and 7, it says a letter from the Henry County Environmental Health Department dated June 13th states that there are suitable soils for installation of septic system on the subject property. Was that the answer you were looking for, or did you just want to see the copy of the report as if it was in there? Mr. Risher.
No, I don't need to see it. I mean, if staff,
So you did get a letter?
Said that they received the report or comments from the environmental health.
I do recall that the applicant did submit their soil test to the Environmental Health Department.
If I may, I have a copy of the response from the Environmental Department, and what is written in the staff report is accurate. that is dated June 13, 2016, and they check that there are suitable soils for installation of a septic system on the subject property.
I keep hearing comments from the audience, and I'm just going to say, we're going to have a time for public comment, and you can come up and give your comment at that point in time. If I hear anything else coming from the audience, I'm going to have to ask those that are speaking out of turn to leave, because it's disruptive to this board and it's disrespectful. So if you'll keep your comments to a low tone, we would appreciate it, and everyone will have a chance to come up and speak for their allotted 10-minute time. So I'd appreciate us keeping the comments to something that we can't hear. Okay, so any other comments from, any other questions from the board to staff? Okay, we ask the applicant to please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
Madam Chair, my name is Eddie Walker, 230 Harris Road. I'm here for Venture and
Where's Harris Road? I'm sorry.
it's Jackson Lake, I'm sorry.
Jackson, Georgia?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
That's my residence.
okay, all right. And
do
do you
have
have anything you'd like to add to staff comments?
No, ma'am. What we did in our planning was we worked with the DOT. We worked with staff very closely. We worked with the health department. We do have the soils map that has been done. We are way above of what the county requires on an R1 subdivision. And the 6, it's not up there, but the 6 conditions are, we've negotiated those out and we completely comply with those things. Now, the road, we've given the county the road for the expansion as per Commissioner Barham. The road is on their splosh to be widened in 2017. And we work real closely with that, and also the lining up of the entrances there for on Timber Ridge. They wanted us to line it up with that Timber Ridge, right? And also we feel that we've tried to go beyond what the requirements were, and we feel we're in compliance with all of it.
Okay, you have anything else you would like to add?
Not at this present time.
Okay. If not, we're going to see if the board members have any questions for you. We're going to start with Mr. Risher to see if he has any questions for the applicant.
The R1 district has a minimum house size, I believe, of 1,500 square feet of heated area. Staff has, in their reports, indicated that in general that the surrounding developments have house sizes larger than that. Would you consider adding a condition that the minimum house sizes go up to 2,000 square feet of heated area?
Mr. Risher, yes, we've discussed this amongst ourselves many times. Yes, sir. This is going to be something nice. You got to start. You got to have a minimum.
Yes.
We're hoping that everything will be larger than that. But yes, sir, the minimum would be of heated square feet would be 2,000 square feet. That would be no problem.
Thank you.
And you're also in agreement with condition number 4, all yards shall be fully sodded, front, back, sides. I don't know if you're in agreement with that, but I mean, yeah,
we're in
that's a
agreement,
condition.
'cause that was about a 20 or 30-minute discussion with thing about. Are you familiar, Madam Chair, with this property?
Most certainly am, because I am a elected official on the Georgia Soil and Water Conservation Commission in Henry County.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Well, great.
So
Well,
I
you
know exactly what you're talking about.
That property is like a sod field anyhow. I mean, it's a Bermuda sod field, and we discussed that anything that we disturb will sod back.
Will be what?
We will sod back.
We'll sod back.
Anything that we disturb, we will sod back. And you might want to get a clarification from,
Well, that's not what this says, though. It says all yards should be fully sodded, so what does that mean?
If you would like to consider that, staff has no objection with that condition being amended to read along the lines of any and all disturbed portions of the property shall be sodded. So basically, any soil that is disturbed will be
Shall be sodded.
will be sodded on the front
we're
side
fully
and
in
rear.
agreement with that, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. Risher, did you get that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes,
that- Okay.
yes, this property does have a very nice stand of grass on it already, and however it's developed, it would probably not be good to disturb all
Well,
the grass and, just have.
That's
to
right. The owners have taken a lot of pride and they fertilize it, they keep it cut. We've had calls, people wanted to, these sod companies wanted to use it, to rent it, to lease it for sod, because it's already there.
Any other board members have any questions for the applicant? Okay, hearing none, we're going to ask you to be seated.
Thank you very much.
Now, at this time, we're going to have 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of this case. Okay, if you'll please come forward and state your name and address for the record. And you're speaking in favor of the case.
I'm speaking in favor. My name is
Okay.
Thomas Brewer.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. I apologize.
Thomas Brewer, and I live at 1115 North Ola Road.
Okay.
Lived there right at 30 years. I remember when it was country. I don't like no growth now. I'm old and I got tired of people. But I've seen a lot of projects, and I come down here to see about this one, and I built a lot of houses, developed a lot of subdivisions. And I kind of just mediocre with this. Nobody likes to see their country go, but when I looked at it, you can't get a better zoning than what they've got right there. I don't even think I would have agreed to the side myself, maybe the front yard, and that would probably be about it. But 'cause I've known that property, and I hate to see it go, but I don't think, you can't stop people from doing development. I mean, it's just wrong. It's their property. They do what they want. And that's the best we could get. I know a lot of people here probably here in opposition, but I'd rather see that one as a whole bunch of the ones that's around there. I assure you that. So they got my vote. And I'm just one person, I guess, but I don't think we could do a better development than that one right there. I would welcome it, even if I didn't want no development, that I would welcome that one.
Did you fill out a speaker card by any chance?
I didn't.
Okay, if you're coming up here to speak, I need for you to go ahead and fill out a card, so if somebody can get him a speaker card, and I guess would they leave it up front? Is that where they leave
Right
it?
here.
Yeah, if you'll fill that out, so that way we can have the correct spelling of your name and everything, okay?
Who do I give it to?
You'll give it to the staff that just raised their hand, okay? So if you are going to come up to speak, if you don't, go ahead, you may be seated. But just give it to them when you fill it out. If you are coming up here to speak, we just need to make sure you fill out that speaker card so that we have that for the record, because that goes in the minutes, and we just want to make sure we have everyone's name and address spelled correctly, okay? So anyone else would like to come up to speak in favor of the case? Okay, I don't see anyone coming up. All right, so now we're going to give 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case. When you come up here, please state your name and address for the record. And make sure you have filled out a card, speaker card. He's got his card in hand.
Combined 10 minutes.
And it's combined 10 minutes, so everybody shares the 10 minutes. And when your 10 minutes is up, I'm going to cut you off.
For all of us?
That's right, combined 10 minutes.
I'll talk quick.
All right, you gotta be fast.
My name is Phil Piotrowski. I'm at 175 Countryside Drive in McDonough. I had a meeting with Mr. Barham many months ago in the street about repaving. That's another whole subject. He told us at that time North Ola Road would be widened out by the developer. I just found out it's going to be a SPLOST project next year, and my road's still not being done on Countryside Drive. Now, the other thing I'd like to say is Henry County public safety has gone dramatically downhill because we can't retain police officers. I had to call 911 just about 5 weeks ago tonight due to a borderline home invasion. But when the lady outside saw an old man standing in the sidelight in his underwear with a gun in his hand, she left. She didn't need to have a jump start or anything, and she drove down the street. 3 calls, 45 minutes to get somebody out there. We're short-handed. We need to retain our police. And I don't have a problem with the police department. I don't have a problem with dispatch. I got a problem with the people sitting up here that are retaining these folks. It's expensive to train these people. We need to keep them. This is rezoned. It's only adding 12 houses. That 80-foot easement in between has me very concerned. We don't have enough police officers to do the extra 12 houses, never mind the hundreds that are going to go in the back there through that 80-foot easement that they've got put in there. Thank you.
Thank you. And give that to staff, please. Sir? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hello.
State your name.
My name is Joyce Ellis. I'm at 130 The Farm Road. I've lived there for 25 and a half years. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Right around the corner. I worked at J.B. Henderson, which is now one of the older building. I have school numbers here from the Board of Education. They are all close to capacity. 925 at Ola Elementary as of this past Wednesday. Middle school is 1225, and the high school is 1550. North Ola Road, right where they're talking about where they're building the 12 houses, floods all the time. The traffic there is horrendous. To build 1,500 square foot homes in less than an acre does not fit our community. Our community has much more acreage and much more square feet in all of the subdivisions in that area. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else want to come and speak in opposition of this case? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Pamela King. My address is 47 The Farm Road, McDonough, Georgia, which is located directly to the north of the property in question. And my comment is, I think it's kind of strange that they would take that large tract and slice off less than 10% of it and propose 12 homes without any kind of indication as to what is going to be done with the remainder of the tract. And it's kind of hard to make a decision whether to be opposed or in favor without knowing what the future plan is for that property. And that's all.
Thank you.
Do you need my card?
You give it to staff, please. Okay. Please state your name and address for the record, and do you have a comment card?
I'm going to get one.
Okay, thank you.
My name is John Ellis. I live at 130 The Farm Road. You just heard from my wife, and I just wanted to point out, looking at the plot of all of the existing homes and properties in that neighborhood, you're familiar with that piece of land. To break that up into 12 houses on 1 acre lots is totally out of character for that neighborhood in that area. It just doesn't fit there. I'm not necessarily opposed to something happening with that property, but you're squeezing in a bunch of houses that are out of character for that area, and it's just not right. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else want to speak in opposition of the case?
I'm Agnes Rush. I live on 110 The Farm Road. It was the first house that was built on that 1,000 acres. We don't have enough room for any more cars. Our roads pothole. That's all we have is potholes. The children don't even have a sidewalk to use on the farm road toward the homes closer to the school. We don't need any more kids at that school. My daughter is a special education teacher there. And she says they're just not fair to the children. It's just overcrowded. And then you want to put, I think it was 150-something homes in that area. I think that's what I saw. I went online and looked at your Henry County, the paperwork that you had on there. And there's no way we could handle that many cars, at least 2 cars per house. The average person has 2 cars because both spouses have to work. What are we going to do? It takes me 35 minutes to get to the freeway now on a good day. It's just not fair for the community to have large houses and then have something like that planned to go in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition of this case? Make sure you give your speaking comment card to staff if you have it in hand. If you'll please go take it to the staff. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Mike Hoover. I live at 130 Timber Ridge Court, which is right across the street from this stuff they're proposing to build. And personally, I'm just like the rest of everybody out here. That road is in terrible shape right now. When you pass a truck on it, you're in the ditch. And by the time they put a dozer or anything else on the back of that truck, you're really in a ditch. And personally, I don't want the entrance to this subdivision right across the street from my house. I have a hard enough time getting in and out of my subdivision now. It's in a blind area, sort of, where they're putting this stuff, and it's like the woman said previously, this area floods quite bad when it comes a storm, and the road's just terrible. And there's already 4 schools on that road. There's a church that's massive that is actually on both sides of the road. There's just no room for any more congestion on this road. And another thing is, that guy was talking about that place being sodded. That's not sod, that was a hayfield. If that's sod, I sure don't want any of it in my yard. And the sewage, the stuff that people was talking about that was dumped on the property, they was actually fertilizing the hay with human waste from the sewage treatment plant. And that's what got that turned down last time, was the actual sewage that they was dumping on the property. And that's all I got.
Thank you. If you'll give your card to the staff.
Okay, I gotta fill it out.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak in opposition of the case? And we got 2 minutes and 48 seconds.
Okay, I'll try to speak fast. My name is Carmen Donnell, and I live at 38 The Farm Road, which is just right around the corner. And I was up here 10 years ago, and I was behind the issue with the R2 and the sludge. And I would really like to see that this property is tested, the soil is tested properly, because at that time I may have been trespassing, but I did send a soil sample off to an agency and a college, and it was tested as toxic in some way, many ways, because this was human-treated waste that was dumped on this property. I am not opposed to this being R1, and I do see that the builder, it seems like he's doing a good job, but the density of that many houses in our area does seem to be a huge concern. Our road is in bad condition, and I would like to see these houses, as they mentioned earlier, at least 2,000 square feet, and maybe even set back further from the road, since the road is to be widened. So if it's going to be improved, I would like to see some of these things at least done to it, and maybe the density for our area to be much less if it has to be developed. So.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else like to speak in opposition? Okay. And ma'am, take your card up, yeah.
My name is Keith Rector. I'm at 120 Timber Ridge Drive. I'm right across the street from where they're wanting to put the subdivision. My concerns is what's going to happen after those 12 houses are built on the backside. We already got 50 homes being developed on Wilson Road that pertain to all the traffic. You can't get through there during school hour as it is. So my concerns are all these houses are being built in there with the roads haven't changed. I've been there for 19 years. It has not changed. And like this gentleman said, you can't, you call somebody, a policeman, it takes forever for them to get there. We don't have enough policemen in the area. We don't need all these houses here, guys. Are we going to end up just like Stockbridge? You're going to build a bad home in there. We all live in nice homes. The Lake Dal area. Do you want to change that? We want nice places to live. This is why we live here. You know what's going to happen? People are going to start leaving. The good people are going to leave, and then you're going to have all these people flooding in here and ruining what we have here. 81, it is so busy. You can't even get on 81 in the morning. So everybody goes down North Ola Road to Case East Lake to go to 75 down to 75. It's a cut through.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, will I need the applicant to please come forward? And staff? Do the board members have any questions for the applicant before we call the case? Mr. Risher?
Yes, sir. Concerning North Ola Road, would you all be willing to grant right-of-way to help facilitate the improvement of that road?
We've already done that. We've already done that, and as per Commissioner Barham, they're going to widen that road. It's 18.4, 18.6 now to a 22-foot road, and we've made provisions for that. We brought that up. We've already done that, Mr. Risher.
All right, and I'm sure that our DOT would take into consideration how the drainage would be handled and improved.
We have spoken with the DOT today about that. Absolutely, we have, and willing to work with them in any way. And also some discrepancy about that road that was at Timber Ridge, going across there to the entrance of that. That was per the DOT. They requested that. That's the reason we put it where we did.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for the applicant?
Yes, I have a couple questions. One is, what's the total number of houses you plan to build on that property?
12.
12. Okay, there was some concerns. Another number went out there, and I wanted to make sure I heard correctly.
Yes, sir. Just 12.
And this is totally up to you. Do you own the property adjacent to that in the rear, to the east of it?
Behind, yes, sir.
Yes, okay. And again, it's totally up to you. Do you care to share what your plans are for that, or?
Looking for suggestions. Have no idea.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
That's it.
Okay, so just want to make sure, you did have an environmental test done, and it came back?
We did that. The lady that commented on that, you're exactly right. It was like a hay field. It's Bermuda grass. All sod fields started out just like what they are. That is beautiful grass. We've cut it. We maintain it. We have not done one thing that we're not supposed to as far as the fertilizer and all.
I just want to make sure that, for the record, the environmental test has been tested, and we got the letter.
I've got it out in my truck, and Mr. Gibbs has a copy also.
Okay. This is a question for staff, and I'm sorry, did you want to make a comment, staff, to?
I just wanted to make a clarification that it's my understanding that the test that was done and submitted to the Environmental Health Department was to ascertain the suitability of the soil. not necessarily to test for any sort of environmental.
Hazards or anything. Okay,
Correct.
okay, and all right, that's, yeah. So so that's that test. So do you have another test that was done for the soil for hazards? Or does that have to be done? Maybe that's a question to ask, Mr.
That would be a test that the owner of the property would decide on their own. It is not required for our application process
Right,
for the
okay.
rezoning.
I just want to make sure. Now, let's talk about the setback. What's the minimum setback for properties on Ola Road? What would that be for, staff could answer that question?
Yes, ma'am. If you'll take a look in your staff report on page 2 there toward the bottom, it's table 2.0, and it shows the ordinance requirements for the R1 zoning district. You'll note that the minimum lot size is an acre, the minimum lot width is 150 feet, and the setback is 50 feet from the front. And so also, if you'll take a look at the staff recommended conditions that are displayed on the overhead, in condition number 5, it says that the front setback lines would be based upon the preserved right-of-way line. So they're supposed to preserve a certain amount of future right-of-way, and then the setback lines would be referenced to that new right-of-way line.
So it'd be from the 40 feet,
Yes, ma'am.
right? So it's actually, there's extra, so that's almost like 90 feet. Okay. Is that what I'm, okay. Just
Yes,
want to
ma'am.
make sure of that. And I'm just trying to address all the questions that were asked. And I just want to make sure that everybody was understanding that number 4, where it says all the yards should be fully sodded, it's all disturbed land that's shall be fully sodded, front, back, sides, and all sides. So
Yes, ma'am, and that would need to be part of the motion.
that'll be part of that motion, okay, to reiterate on that. For staff, so for this rezoning, that does go to the Board of Commissioners. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct. Your motion tonight will be the recommendation that we carry to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, so at that time, any issues with the police and money for extra police officers and things like that could be addressed with the commissioners. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, there will be a public comment portion of the agenda, and they will have opportunity to sign up via a card and present it to the county clerk, and then state their issue.
Right,
or
because they're the
concern.
ones who set the budget for the county as far as how many police officers are hired and
Yes.
and that sort of thing. Okay. And then in the staff notes under schools, I've noticed that it said there's an estimated additional 28 students that would be added for those 12 homes. And I think we heard an additional 100-something students, and I didn't know where that number came from. But is that a correct? That was from the school system. Is that a correct statement?
Yes.
Okay, so the school system said they're going to estimate an additional 28 students to the schools.
Yes, ma'am, and that's because on the subject property, the applicant is proposing 12 houses, and so that was the basis for the school's estimation.
Okay, that's because it's just for the 12 houses, and that's what we're hearing tonight, is just the 12 houses.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think that hopefully answers a lot of the concerns that were raised tonight. Anyone else, any of the board members have any comments or questions for the applicant or staff? Okay, you may be seated,
Thank you.
and we'll call the case.
Case number RZ-16-14, Ola Ventures of McDonough, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R1 Single Family Residence for a property located on North Ola Road, in land lot 55 of the 12th District. The property consists of 14.369 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a minor subdivision. And for the record, the correct land lot is 112, and the correct district is the 8th District. There's a typo in the agenda there, I just noticed. This property is located in Commission District 3 and was presented by Mr. Stacy Jordan Rudisill.
Okay, do you have a motion for this case?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the request from RA Residential Agricultural to R1 Single Family Residential with several conditions. One, that all houses shall be built on-site, that is, no modular or manufactured homes, and they shall have a minimum heated area of 2,000 square feet. Each home shall have a 2-car garage standard and will be side entry. All homes shall consist of all sides brick, stone, stucco, or any combination of two or more of the following materials on all sides. That is brick, stone, stucco, or cement fiberboard. Vinyl-based products are only permitted in the soffits, eaves, and fascia. Any disturbed areas for construction and septic field lines on these lots shall be replaced with new sod. On condition 5, the owner has already deeded right-of-way for the future improvement of North Ola Road. All proposed intersection and driveways are to be located such that each meets the minimum intersection standards as determined by the Henry County Department of Transportation, including sight distance per the road's posted speed limit. Driveways shall be addressed during the plan review process by the Henry County DOT and Henry County DOT standards.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Babb. Any discussion? I have a question for Mr. Risher. Your motion for number 6 is different from what is listed on the staff's motion. I mean, number 6. So did you not want to say all grading for yards and driveways shall be such that no drainage will be trapped within or adjacent to North Ola Road right-of-way? That was not in our book.
Well, if you look at the property, that it has very little, ditch, if any, on that side, and there was some discussion about flared-in sections at the end of driveway pipes, but I felt that due to the nature of the topography and the future road improvement, that ought to be left to our Henry County DOT to handle during the plan review process.
Okay. All right, I just want to clarify that. All right, any other discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
We have David Simmons from Henry County DOT here. He has a comment he would like to interject there.
Yes, I was just going to, when they do the 12 lots, the lots are actually permitted through building and plan review. We'll only see them if we're brought into it to look at them. I would say I think there is likely a need for some improved ditching along North Ola in areas. There may be some areas where you can't place a ditch, but I would think there could be some areas where some ditching could be improved. And it's been mentioned a couple of times, I just want to get this in there, about North Ola being widened. I'd heard that also, I checked with SPLOST, and there is some question, we'll still have to look at that between now and the BOC as to whether or not there's enough money budgeted in District 3's resurfacing and widening to do North Ola, because the section is 20 feet wide all the way from Snamming Shoals to Honey Creek, so it's just a case of, is a question as to if there's enough funding in place to do that whole section or not. So it'll be something that'll have to be probably discussed a little bit between now and the next meeting.
Well, I realize that the commissioners have the budget for everything, and I'm sure they'll take this into consideration and, put the proper plans in place.
Did you want to say anything about the ditching? I guess did I hear you correctly? In other words, the DOT is only going to be brought in if asked to do so. And your motion was, I think the DOT.
I can add one more thing. A lot of that has to do with where there is a very shallow ditch to where it'd be hard to get a driveway pipe in, or maybe the water flows away from North Ola a little bit. I just wanted to guard against putting a driveway across a shallow ditch but not having any way to convey the water across, and I was just wanting to try and protect against trapping water in the ditch next to the road or near the road.
So did you want to add that last sentence? based on what he just had mentioned, or do you want to leave it as you made your motion?
I think I'll leave it, I think I'll leave it as it is. I mean, I think we understand that, you know, that our DOT needs to look at the situation as these homes are built on that section of the road.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I heard you say that you have no, I'm kind of confused.
You know, with it being a zoning condition, we should be somewhat involved in it, considering it's in writing. So hopefully, I mean, I can coordinate with building and plan review that, you know, just to kind of point it out, so we'll be in combo on that as we go forward.
Okay.
I have one thing in reference to that for DOT. There was some concerns in terms of the place actually flooding. Would this be, or would this cause any problem based on that language on 6?
That was my concern. If you put driveway across a really shallow ditch where you can't really get water under it, then something about how it's graded, it needs to be where the water can get on across versus getting up on the edge of the roadway.
So if that is a problem in the future, if there's like water that's standing in the roadway, who fixes that?
If it's after the fact, I suppose it'll be us. So, you know.
So you said that based on,
We want this to not create any additional problems that I might already have, and, you know, there probably needs to be some looking into about, is there some places where we could improve some of the drainage? I know particularly the south third of the site's got some fall to a ditch, and that could be done, but the part, kind of the northern 2/3 of the site is a very flat ditch or a very shallow ditch, and that would be probably difficult to get something to work there, particularly if it flows to the north, because eventually you're controlled by what you're trying to get under onto the next driveway to the north if you're trying to take water down the ditch line.
so, but you're going to work with the building department then on those concerns according to this motion that he has had for number 6? Is that, you think that's going to satisfy that? I just want to make sure that that's going to be able to be addressed in working with, I think that's, the motion was that you would work, the DOT would work with the building department. Mr. Risher, that was your motion?
Yes, and it, you know, and it could be, there may be some minor ditching or something we may have to do on our own also. It's kind of still in discussion stage, so we'll do what we can as part of the development, or maybe even ahead of it if possible, or work something out with the developer on how they grade their lots and what to do with the drainage.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Risher. I have a second by, was it Mr., did you? Oh, Mr. Babb. All those in favor indicate by raising your hand. All those opposed? Okay. Motion carried. Call the next case, please.
Case number RZ 16-15. We Partner Carl Parker 101 LLC of Lawrenceville, Georgia requests a rezoning from R1 Single Family Residence to RA Residential Agricultural for property located on Carl Parker Road, north on Conkle Road, in land lots 135 and 154 of the 6th District. The property consists of 99.98 plus or minus acres, and the request is to revert to the previous RA zoning. It is located in Commission District 2, and will be presented by Ms. Josephine Medina.
Josephine, I could just ask you to wait just a second so we can hear. Okay, thank you.
Good evening again. The applicant is requesting a reversion from R1 to RA to its original zoning. The property is located to the south side of Carl Parker Road. The property consists of 99.98 plus or minus acres. The applicant has not given any indication of what is being proposed. If we take a look at the current zoning, the property is surrounded by R1 subdivision to the west, and RA zoning throughout the other surrounding it, and then to the south, commercial. There is one portion which is not being considered as part of this reversion. Well, which is that lot right there, which is not outlined in green. I just wanted to point that out. So that would remain R1. Now, the request is consistent with the future land use map. The request is to revert back to residential agricultural, which is supported by the future land use map of rural residential. Now, if this property is developed, whether it be developed as R1 or approved in the reversion to RA, it does have a creek that crosses the property in two locations in the southern property line. So right here and right here. So it would have to meet the requirements of stream protection as outlined in Section 3.03.00, which would include buffers. The property also is located within the Walnut Creek Watershed Protection Area, so it also would have to adhere to Section 3.04.00 for the Water Protection District ordinances. Staff recommends approval of the reversion with one condition. I'll now answer any questions you guys have.
Okay, Ms. Nesbitt, this is in your district. I'm going to let you start if you have any questions for staff at this time.
Why was it changed to R1 in the first place?
So I looked for the zoning history. A portion of it was rezoned back in so a portion, let me grab a map to show you, sorry. So as you see, there is a subdivision, R1 currently built out. The front portion of, so the portion around here along Carl Parker, a portion of it was rezoned to R1 after these lots were rezoned. But then as far as the change into the other portion of the R1, I could not find any zoning history indicating a rezoning was petitioned by an applicant. I was able to find a change in the zoning map to R1, but there was a request back in 2014 for 85.9 acres to be rezoned to R2 from R1. And this request was denied, but as far as the rezoning of the 85.98 acres to R1, I wasn't able to find a zoning file indicating that an applicant requested for rezoning to R1.
So that having been said, why does somebody want to change it back?
And that might be a question for the applicant. They are allowed to ask for a reversion, but I'm not sure. It wasn't told to me what it was being proposed as. So maybe the applicant might be better able to answer the question.
Anyone else have any questions for staff?
I have one question
Mr.
for
Nelson?
Josephine. The area where they are not requesting the rezoning, what's on that property?
I believe it's a house.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions for staff? Okay.
Maybe the survey.
Oh, sorry. That. There. Okay. Would like to ask the applicant to please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Board. My name is Mike Crawford, 130 Low Street, McDonough. I'm representing the applicant tonight, and I apologize if I don't have an answer for the question you had, but I'll answer as many as I know to.
Okay, so is that all did you have anything else you want to add to staff's comments?
No, we accept the staff's recommendation of approval from, and it is a reversion. It is not a rezoning or downzoning. It's a reversion. The property was marketed. It was denied in 2014 as R2, and so that market, that person to purchase went away. So reverting back to the original zoning was just a constitutional effort in putting back an RA.
Specific reason to change it back?
No.
Do you know
Not
what?
that I'm sorry, not that I can answer because I don't have the, other than he said we just want to revert it back to the original zoning.
Okay. What do they plan to do with it? What are they going to put there?
I don't have that answer. I don't know.
Madam Chair, if I could speak for just a moment. In my discussions with the applicant and the agent of the applicant, at this moment, there is no proposed development for this property other than a decision to revert it back to the original zoning.
Would there be more taxes they would have to pay for R1 versus rural agricultural RA?
That would be a question best answered by the tax commissioner or tax assessor's office.
Okay. That would be, might be something, has to do with it too. So if they're not planning on doing anything with it, it's just sitting there. So that's just me talking.
And there have been no improvements to the property in several years since it was rezoned to R1. So
Okay.
So nothing's been done to the property. It's just just a revision.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, you may be seated.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll have 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of the case. Okay, don't see anyone coming up. All right, those who want to speak in opposition of the case, we're going to give you 10 minutes. 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of the case.
I'm Pat McDevitt. I live at 73 Carl Parker in Twin Oaks. Right at the properties that they're trying to develop. I don't know what they're going to do to it, but
I'm so sorry.
yeah.
Is that McDonough?
Ma'am?
Is that McDonough?
Yes, McDonough.
Okay.
And I live in Hampton. I live in Hampton. It's Hampton.
Oh, okay. State your address just one more time. I'm sorry.
Okay, 73 Carl Parker Road, Hampton.
Hampton. Okay. I didn't hear that. I apologize.
Okay. What I want to know is they got a sign out there now, a big sign, the property is up for sale. And I know they want to change it to R1 back to R2, but who owns the property? And what are they going to do to it? Are they going to develop the road, where the roads are going to come out on Carl Parker?
Well, this is a comment period, so we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can ask the applicant later.
That's what I don't understand, what they're going to do with the property. If it's up for sale, is somebody trying to buy it now and then waiting to get it approved and then, do what they ever got to do? We want bigger houses, bigger lots on it if they did. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition of the case? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Harold Galloway at 205 Prairie Hen Lane in Hampton, Georgia. I'm in that subdivision that's right butted up against it. I will tell you point blank, when everything started going through, I was at the meeting where they tried to go from R1 to R2 and it got denied. and the people were talking about there'll be a lot more traffic coming in and the school system be overloaded and stuff. That's not true. They have brand new school system out there, brand new school. They have, they started taking the trees out and doing everything they were supposed to do to get everything nice and level. And all of a sudden just stopped just like that. Now, I live in the subdivision, and people talk about there'll be more crime. I can count 4 officers in our subdivision. There is no crime. It's quiet. It's very peaceful where I live at in that subdivision. And I doubt that if they had go ahead and done, allowed people to put the houses up, there'd have been that much more. So yeah, I'm against it. I want it to stay R1 so that somebody come in there, buy this property up, build some houses, raise the property value up, allow more taxes to go toward the county, and just have a better standard of living for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? We are in opposition, right?
Yeah, that was good.
Good afternoon. My name's Lee Phillips. I live at 266 Coral Parker Road. I'm that spot, I got that house on the only side of that road right there.
Is that Hampton?
Yes,
Okay.
it is Hampton. I don't understand what's going on. What you said earlier that you couldn't find where it was zoned to R1, so you're reverting back to RA, or what? I can't figure that out.
Whenever staff researches a file or a case, to look to see if there has been a submittal by a previous owner or whomever owned the property in years past for rezoning, and we don't find a case to link it to a formal request, what we then do is look at the maps and what board officially adopted the map. So basically, per Georgia law, whatever local governing body, whenever they officially adopt a map, that is the zoning of that property. So then we just defer to what was officially adopted. So that's what you're looking at, an officially adopted map. It could have been 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago by the respective board of commissioners at that time that designated this property R1.
So the gentleman before us is requesting it go back to RA, or you?
In terms of zoning, the base zoning district for Henry County is RA.
Okay.
And so they just wanted to revert back to the base zoning district, which is a rural designation.
And we do have a good community there. But I will tell you, where I live at, if you live inside the new developed area, it's nice. I got some friends over there, but they don't see the traffic that we see where Jonesboro Road is backed up, so everybody's cutting through, and they're doing like 70 miles an hour coming down through there, hitting that curve, and then taking that left right there and cutting through, going to Route 3. And so I see it every day. I pull out in it, and it is pretty congested. I lived there when it was a dirt road. You had to put up with dirt. It was nice. It was quiet. They put the road in. It was nice. It was convenient, yet it comes at a price. And it does get heavily congested there. And people speed up and down that road. I got kids. Neighbors got kids. We got animals out there. And I don't want to see it develop. It's really nice over there. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition of the case? Okay, we need the, oh, did you want to speak, sir? Okay.
5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes, okay. If I don't see anyone coming up, go ahead and ask the applicant to please come forward. Do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant? I have a question, just to make sure. So there's no plans to do anything, any development? You're just trying to get it back to the base, which is RA, because the R2 was denied back in 2014, so, and the person that was going to develop it, he didn't want it after it was not rezoned, so you want it to go back to RA, which was, like Dante said, it's the base. It's the base. So I just want to make sure that's, because we heard some comments, and I think there's some misunderstanding of the zoning, and so this is taking it from R1, which could be developed, back to RA, which also could be developed in RA, but it's a big, it's low density, right. So either way, it could be developed today.
That's correct.
And if you change it to RA, it can still be developed. So I just want to make sure there was no misunderstandings in that. All right, so we got that squared away. Anyone else have any comments or any questions for staff or applicant?
I have a question for staff. Now, Dante, the same applies here. If it goes back to RA, they have 18 months before they can apply again, correct?
Yes, sir. That's
All right,
correct.
thank you.
Okay.
We understand that.
And since it was 2014, it's been, it's enough time. Okay, thank you. You may be seated. All right, can we have a motion for this case?
Madam Chair, I need
Oh.
to call the case.
To call the case, that's right. I was
Case-
going to say that, and I was like, wait, which comes first?
Case number RZ-16-15, We Partner Car Parker 101 LLC of Lawrenceville, Georgia. Request a rezoning from R1, single-family residence to RA, residential agricultural, for the property located on Carl Parker Road, north of Conkle Road, in land lots 135 and 154 of the 6th District. The property consists of 99.98 plus or minus acres, and the request is to revert to the previous RA, residential agricultural zoning. It is located in Commission District 2 and was presented by Ms. Josephine Medina.
Now do I have a motion for this case?
Yes, Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve RZ-16-15 as recommended by staff.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Nesbitt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second by Ms. Green. All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. Is that the cases? That's it? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
So moved, okay.
Second.